Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. In this video, we're going to talk about how to grow long grain rice. Not regular or wet rice, long grain rice. I have a separate video out on wet rice if you wanted to check that out, if that's what you're looking for. They are different enough that I thought it was worth doing two different videos on. So anyhow, everything in this video is for all platforms, so regardless of whether you're on PC or Xbox or PlayStation, this will work for you, and it's all for the base game. So there's no mods or anything that I'm using like that. Time codes are also below, so you can kind of skip ahead to a specific topic if you're looking for maybe just harvesting and got everything else figured out. You can skip ahead down below using the time codes. I do talk fast as well, so if you need to slow me down, you can also do that down below with the YouTube controls there. And I will also note that if there's anything that I missed that is critical, it'll be in the first pinned comment down below. So if there's a glaring question I didn't answer, it's probably down there. So hopefully, though, there's not, because hopefully I get it all covered here for you. But there is a lot. So what we will cover in this video, first section is going to be field prep and building rice fields. Then we're going to talk about planting long grain rice, caring for long grain rice as it grows, harvesting long grain rice, and then what do you do with the long grain rice after you harvest it? So first off, let's get to planting some long grain rice and getting some fields set up here. So how do we get a field set up, or where can we actually do this? So building rice fields is pretty straightforward. You can't, if I go into the map here, you can't just use any regular old field. You have to use a rice field. Some maps will have them built in, which this map actually does have some over by where the starting farm is, which I think is, yep, just right over here. So these ones you can buy, they're already pre-built rice fields, but for the most part, you're not going to find those on any map. So first things first, you can buy any piece of land, whether it's a field or not, and then you can build a rice field on it. So when we go into the build mode, we go down here to factories. We're going to scroll over to cultivation and click on rice field. Now, the bigger the field, the more expensive it's going to be for you. We're going to make a pretty straightforward field down here. I'm just going to go from side to side, and then I can go up to maybe, I don't know, we don't need to go that big, probably right about here-ish. And then I'm just going to go across to make it kind of a square in shape, at least to some degree. And then once you have that set up, you can also, up here you can see, remove the last corner. So if I didn't like the last one, I could get rid of that, and then it gets rid of it for me. If it's green, that means you can place it, which you just hit right click to place, but I want it to be a square. And you also can change how high it is. So I can go up or I can go down if you wanted to sink it in. I don't want this to be high or anything like that. I want it to be just normal. So I'm just going to do it right there. And it will raise this land up just a tad, but nothing too crazy. So yeah, now that I've got there, I'm going to go ahead and just hit R to place it. And then now we have our rice field. I should also note whatever side you start on. So if that's my first side right there that I just placed, it's going to put your water pump in the middle. So if you want your water pump to be, let's say I wanted it over here only, or I wanted it, we can go over here and build it on the rice field. Let's say I wanted my rice pump to be right here on this edge of the field. I could place a very short segment there. And then if I wanted to keep going, I can still keep going on that same line and then do my thing, come around and then place it, and then it'll put it right there. So that's kind of how you can trick the system into putting the pump where you want. Now, you don't have to be able to drive up to the pump. You do have to be able to walk up to the pump, so I'll note that. But now we have a rice field. So there we go. It's all set and ready to plant, but let's talk about field prep. So the field prep step you can skip entirely if you have already, if you just placed a fresh field. If this is a fresh field, never been used before, you can skip the field prep step entirely. But if it is not a fresh field and you've already done a harvest on it or something like that, then you will need to follow this step as well. So this is where we get into a few different settings and stuff like that. Plowing. If periodic plowing is on, which if we go into the settings, right here, game settings, if periodic plowing is on, then we need to check something on the map. We need to go over here. We need to go to soil composition and then check needs plowing. If you have a field that needs plowing, which we might be able to see one on here somewhere, but turn that off. So anyone, yep, these ones all need plowing down here. So you'll see that if they need plowing. That means that we need to take care of that. So if the field has that, you need to take a plow and you need to go over the field. I'll have a separate video talking about specifically like how to plow if you needed that extra help, but mostly you should be able to figure it out. You just have to buy one of these plows, hook them up to the back of your tractor, and then you can even hire an AI worker. And by the way, I should also note, an AI worker can do everything on this field. Everything you could need to do to this field, every step I'm talking about today, AI workers can handle all of it. So plow it if needed, and that'll be taking care of that. Now you may have to cultivate it, and I should also actually note this as well. So the plowing state will be gotten rid of with this, and with spaders. So all three of those types of things will get rid of the plowing state. Now, if the plowing state's not required, you may have to cultivate the field. I should say you will have to cultivate the field unless you use what's called a direct drill seeder, which we will talk about in the seeding or planting section. So If you need to cultivate the field or do some sort of field prep to the field, you can use a plow to do it, a cultivator to do it, a disc harrow, a power harrow, subsoiler. I'd probably not use a mulcher. I would avoid that. I don't think that'll work for you. Or a spader, but you can use any one of these 6 categories here. Just get one of those and go out across the field. Again, a worker can do that. You just got to buy one. Make sure your tractor has enough horsepower to run it, and then get it out there on the field and take care of it. So after you got that sort of stuff done, and I should also note too that some of these steps don't necessarily need to be in this order during field prep. They just have to be done at some point. The next thing we want to maybe take a look at doing is seeing if lime needs to be applied to the field. We want to do that before planting. So if we have lime turned on, we need to go to settings here. If you have period, or where is that here? Lime required. If you have that turned on, we need to make sure that lime is on the field to make sure we get the best yield. So we can find that out by putting the needs lime on. So if it has this kind of hint right here on there, then we'll need to put it down in the field. Ours does not have it because the field comes pre-limed when you place it down. So we don't have to worry about it this time, but we may have to worry about it in the future. Now, if you plow or cultivate this field, you may have what are called field stones will start to pop up, which if we go in here, we can see, oh, not that one. My field stones are turned off, I bet, because they're not showing up in there. If I have settings in here, if I go field stone on, we'll go crop destruction, we'll leave that off. If you drive over your crops and they get destroyed, that is because the crop destruction is on. I'd recommend turning that off at least to start. But yeah, if we go in here, stones, I don't think any of these fields are going to have stones because I had it turned off in the settings, but you'll see like some scattered red and, you know, yellow, orange, and red dots. Those are small stones, medium stones, and large stones. But no matter what kind of stones you have in here, you need to go over them with a stone picker to pick them up. It's not the end of the world if you don't. If you leave the stones in the field, all that's going to happen is your equipment's going to wear out a little bit faster or need repaired a little bit more often. Not by much, just a little bit more often. It's not going to actually affect the yield of your crops. So there you go. That is kind of the steps: plowing, cultivating, possibly, liming, possibly. I mean, plowing's also possibly, and then field stones possibly as well, depending on your settings, what you got going on. But now let's move on to planting or seeding. So for long grain rice, planting is done with a regular seeder, which I have over here. You can get that in the store if you just come down here to seeders. You'll see down here, long grain rice. That's the icon for it. It'll plant that. It's different from wet rice. Wet rice requires the specialty Iseki planter, which is somewhere in here. Here it is. It requires this guy. You can see that's the icon for wet rice. So it requires that. This one does not require that, though. We're just using a regular seeder to do it. Now, if you have a direct drill seeder, I said I would talk about that a little bit. This one, for example, it says, additionally, this seeder offers a possibility to seed directly. So if you have a direct drill seeder, you can skip the cultivating portion. Now, if it still has plowing required, you still need to take care of that. But a direct drill seeder will skip that step. It plows, or it cultivates, or excuse me, I can't even talk anymore. It seeds directly into the ground, so you don't have to prep the seed bed first with like a cultivator. So that's the benefit to that. Now, the other thing is some of these seeders will do seeding only. You can see this one just does seeding, and some will do, if we get to like this one, the one I'm going to use, or is that the one I'm going to use? No, I'm going to use this one down here. But that's the same one as this one. It's just a modded version. You can see it has fertilizer in there as well. So if it will do seed and fertilizer, it'll add the fertilizer state right away for you, which we'll talk about fertilizing in the crop care portion of this. But if you can get a seeder that does fertilizing at the same time, that will save you a step in the future. So it's super nice. And also you can see these seeders can do a bunch of other crops as well, which I'll talk about in separate videos. But yes, all right, if we buy the seeder and we get it all set up, the next thing we need to do is we need to put seeds and fertilizer in it if required. Seeds are always going to be required. Fertilizer may not be. It depends on the seeder takes it or not. You can buy seeds in the store using any one of these 3 methods here. They're all the same price. Well, actually, this one's a little bit cheaper because you get a little bit more seedage for the same price as these two. But regardless, it doesn't matter that much. And then fertilizer can be found in here. You have solid fertilizer there. You could also buy it in that form right there if you'd like to. But it has to be solid fertilizer. If that's what your seeder takes. And I don't think there's actually any seeders in base game that take liquid fertilizer. There might be a planter that does. Yeah, these don't take, none of these take liquid fertilizer. It's all solid fertilizer, but I believe there's a planter. I believe this one, yep, that one does take liquid fertilizer, but it can't do long grain rice anyways, so that's for a different video. Then you're going to pull up next to the pallets, hit R to refill. I'm not sure what the command will be on console, but if you have your help menu up, hitting F1, you can open up your help menu on PC, and then if you go into the settings on console, you can open up your help menu until you get used to the controls. And this one, oh, this one maybe it won't let me fertilize. This is a modded one, so it may be a little, it may be broken in terms of that. Let me buy the correct one here. I meant to buy the regular one, but this one will fertilize as well. So let me buy that one, and then we'll buy another pallet of seeds real quick, just for that there. And then I'm gonna get this guy out of the way, and we'll grab the correct one, the one that I meant to buy originally. And again, this is not a direct drill, but it doesn't matter because our field is already set and good to go. So now if I pull up next to it, should allow me to load up. Maybe not. Oh, I know exactly what's happening here. This is my fault. If I go in here, I can hit yes to have the fertilizer distribution unit added on. Totally forgot that you have to do that if you want that part of it, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to put seeds in it and we're going to call it good to go. I'm not going to worry about fertilizing because it'll allow me to demonstrate it in the next step anyway. So there we go. Okay, now we just got to drive over to our field and plant. Now you see it's currently selected on wheat down there, so I'm going to scroll over until that says long grain rice. Now the other thing we need to consider when planting is the crop growth. So right now I have seasons turned off, so I can plant any crop whenever I want. But if I was to go down here to game settings and turn seasonal growth to yes, which by the way, make sure you avoid pause. If you have it set to pause, nothing will grow. If you have it set to yes, seasonal growth applies. Have it set to no, seasonal growth does not apply. But we're going to put it on seasonal growth. Then if I come back in here and I go down to long grain rice, I can only plant it in April, which is not going to let me plant right now because it's in August. That's where that dotted line is where we're at now. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to turn seasons to no, which will still mean things will grow, but they're not going to grow in the seasonal growth cycle. So now I can come in here and again, I can hire a worker or do whatever I want to do. You just have to lower the seeder down and then hit B to start planting, and it will start planting for us. Pretty straightforward. Or at least it should. Should start planting. If I hit higher, I'll let them start working on that. We can see here if it actually did start planting in here. Go to growth. No, it didn't. Hopefully it should start working. Let's make sure it works on here. There we go. I must have done something wrong over there. I must have not lowered it or turned it on. But you can see there, it is working just fine. And we are seeding long grain rice. So I'm going to let him get rocking and rolling on this, and then I will bring you guys back in when he gets done taking care of this field. All right, it is completely planted. You can see in here, all good to go. And obviously we don't have any fertilizer down. I can activate fertilizer to see. There's two states of fertilizer. This is one state and this is two states. That's the color difference there. Now again, as I mentioned, we only need one fertilizer state for, actually, did I mention that? I don't know if I did or not yet, but you only need one fertilizer state on your field for long grain rice or wet rice. I forgot to mention that in my wet rice video. I think I mentioned you needed two, so I put it in the first pinned comment, but you only need one. I'm going to put down a state right now. Now, I just seeded. I haven't fast forwarded a month or anything like that. If you did not put down fertilizer when you were seeding, as in your seeder didn't do it, or you didn't put down fertilizer right before you seeded, you are able to put down your state here. You just can't do two states in 1 month. It's kind of difficult to do that. There are some kind of tricky ways you can trick the game into letting you do that, but for the sake of this video, we're going to say that you can only put down one state at a time per month. So I can put down one state now, and then I don't really have to worry about it until harvest. But if I wanted to, I could put down another state, and then basically the next time we do rice on this field, I don't have to fertilize at all if I don't want to, if I have two states on here, because it's only going to use one state when we harvest. So when we go to harvest the crop, which we'll do in a little bit here, you're going to see that it's going to leave one of those states behind when we do it. But you can see now that we did that, we have one state of fertilizer here, and of course I fertilized some of my field around the edge, but that doesn't really matter a whole lot. So the big thing to do as well is after you plant, you want to make sure that nothing needs to be flooded, which, if I remember correctly, long grain rice doesn't need to be flooded just yet because it's all planted good to go. And yep, you'll see here, nothing needs to be flooded. It won't let you do anything. It will make sure that you do it correctly. So now we can just fast forward the next day, which I'm going to go ahead and do here real quick. If I go over to my house and skip to the next day, perfect. We'll do noon. That's going to take us to noon today, but then I'll fast forward to tomorrow. So we'll do that and get us on to tomorrow. So the next thing we're going to have to kind of worry about in terms of field care is weeding and field flooding. So every day we're going to have to go out to the field and make sure the field water level is right where it should be, which it will automatically set itself. We just have to go out and interact with the field pump. So the other thing we have to do as well is deal with weeds if you have weeds turned on. You can see our crops have gone up a state here. You can ignore the flicker in the background. It fixed itself since I fast forwarded time. So I need to come up to first this thing, and then I need to hit flood. It'll say water level too low, and then it'll slowly flood. If I speed up time in game, it'll flood faster because it's tied to the in-game time, and you can see now there's a lot more water down there, and it's done flooding. Perfect. Now I can't come in here. I can't empty it. It doesn't let me empty it. It sets the water level where it's supposed to be. If you don't set the water level every day, you'll see little spots on your crop that'll start to die off, which is not ideal. Now, if you did want to put a second layer of fertilizer down, you could do this using this fertilizer spreader here. Now, again, you can use slurry, manure, digestate, solid fertilizer like I'm doing here, or liquid fertilizer to throw a layer down. There's all sorts of different things in terms to do that. I'm going to do a separate video kind of showing all those different things off and how to use them. But if you look into the store here, you can see down here under, we can use a sprayer to spray down liquid fertilizer, solid fertilizer, manure spreaders. It's all in there. You just have to buy them, and then you can buy the appropriate stuff at the store to fill them, like solid fertilizer to fill up your spreader. But as you can see here, let me just go ahead, and I'll actually just go just down this way here. I'm only going to put half the field to 2 fertilizer states just to demonstrate. So you'll see, actually, maybe just a little over half of it will be 2 fertilizer states. You can see the areas that are 2 fertilizer states. This little chunk here is just 1 still. This one's 1 still down here. So it's part of it is fertilized completely and part of it is not. If I pull this guy out of here, good to go. Now, if I go up to it, you'll say fertilize 100% there. It might actually show only 50% over here because you can layer down another level of fertilizer. And yeah, it does only show 50% over here. And it does show less on the yield bonus, but it doesn't use that other layer of fertilizer, so don't let those numbers trick you there. You just need 1 layer of fertilizer. So now that that's done, we just have to keep an eye out for weeds. So if I go in here and I go to weeds, if you have weeds on, which these fields have weeds, these are killed weeds. The darker the green is, the more the weeds have grown up. So you have small weeds versus little weeds, or small weeds versus big weeds and stuff like that. You can use several methods to get rid of the weeds. What I recommend is using a sprayer with herbicide. It's just the easiest because it takes care of all levels of weeds. If you want to use a different function, let me go down here. We should have weeders somewhere down in here. Let's see. Where do we have our weeders down here? Miscellaneous? No, they should be. They got to be somewhere. I mean, I know they exist. I just don't use them a lot, so I haven't really taken... Oh, weeders are right below right there. So there are some different weeders. They'll tell you medium grown weeds. This will take out small grown weeds, so just be careful. This one, I think, is there one that'll take out a large? I'm not sure, but anyhow, you have to be careful. Use the correct weeder if there's weeds on there. You can turn weeds off. You don't want to deal with it in the settings. I have weeds turned to on right now, but I'm going to turn them off just because I don't want to deal with it. So those are all your settings in there, and now all we have to do is fast forward another day and check on our crops again and see how they are doing. So if I go ahead and fast forward. All right, now it's the next day. So if I walk over to the field here, it should need flooding again. Boom, there we go. Flooded again. Now, long grain rice takes an extra month to grow compared to wet rice. I should also note that. But now that's going to flood. We can just go right back to sleep if we want to skip to the next day because it'll flood to that appropriate level and then stop. All right, now it's the next day. We just got to go out to it and check it. There will be some days where it won't want you to flood it at all and it doesn't want any more. I believe it'll want some today. And then I believe the rest of the time it doesn't actually need any, but make sure you go out and check it to be sure. I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys back in when it's time to harvest this. All right, you can see our rice is now ready to harvest. And if you wanted to check on the status of your field, if you go into the map here, you can go into the growth channel here. And if it's that orange, it means it's ready to harvest. I think everything on the map is probably ready to harvest right now, but it'll be different shades of green if it's still in the growing process. And the darker it gets, the closer it is to being ready to be harvested. So you can kind of monitor the growth through that. But you harvest rice or long grain rice with a regular grain header and a regular harvester. If we go into the shop here, if you go down to harvesters, any harvester in here will do it. You can see long grain rice is going to be the icon at the bottom for every single harvester in here. And then you also just need a regular grain header. You can see long grain rice is listed on all of these. So it doesn't matter which one in here you use. You can use it for doing long grain rice, which is awesome. So I'm going to get in our harvester, and you can hire a worker to do this as well if you'd like to. You're not going to get any straw from long grain rice. I should note that as well. But then I just lower it down, and I can start harvesting long grain rice. You can just see it going into my tank there, down at the bottom right-hand corner. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and harvest just a little bit of this, and then we're going to talk about what to do after you harvest it. And again, after you've completed the harvesting step, you just have to reset, go back to step 1 in this video, and, you know, rinse, repeat, and you can keep doing it over and over again until you have all the long grain rice that you could ever need. So, yep, I'm going to go ahead and harvest a little bit more of this, and then we'll talk about what to do in terms of selling or using rice as a crop. All right, and we're finishing up this row here. You can see down the bottom right-hand corner, I could keep going until that grain tank is completely full. But I'm going to go ahead and stop just to show you guys how to get this unloaded and get it taken care of. So I can turn off the harvester, hit O to put the pipe out, and then I need some sort of bulk trailer. So if I go into the store actually here, any one of these bulk trailers here will be able to hold your long grain rice and, I mean, a ton of other things. Or you can use a truck, which is what I'm going to use, to be able to move it around and transport it. So I got the nice lizard dragon here. So I just got to drive under my harvester and get it unloaded into here, and then I'll show you guys what you can do with it after that. So rice kind of has a couple of different things you can do with it. One, you can store it in a regular silo if you wanted to hold off for a better price. And then obviously number 2 is you can sell it. So if I go into the main menu here, go into this bar graph, I can find long grain rice in here. Let's see, not lice, it's rice. There we go. And you can see different places where you can sell it. Ignore the multi-fruit buying station. That's a cheaty mod that I have installed to help me do tutorials. But yeah, you can choose where you want to sell it. If you're not happy with the prices, you can see the prices are going to be about here. And in July, would be the best time to sell at $1,000 per 1,000 liters instead of these prices. Then you can hold off, or you can transport it if you'd like to. And once you do want to decide you want to sell it, you just have to choose where you want to sell it, and then hit tag place. You can see it on the map here. If I zoom out, we can look for, where is it flashing? There should be a flashing icon somewhere on the map. That'll show me where I'm selling this out. Oh, just right up around the corner at the farmer's market there. And if I come out here, you can see there, it has a little tagged area there. So you can do that to sell it. And all you have to do is drive over to wherever it is you want to sell it, which I might as well just demonstrate for you real quick, selling it off. Just come up over to the sell point, drive over top of the sell trigger, and then hit I to unload, or whatever the control is for console players. You can see our money's going up as we sell off the rice. So there you go. We sold off rice, paid $2,700 just doing that little bit of the field there. So pretty straightforward. You also can use rice in a number of productions, but I'll go over the productions in a different video because there's a lot more to them as well. But there you guys go. I hope you guys enjoyed. That's just a quick guide on how to get long grain rice going for you. If you guys did enjoy, please drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on the screen to join the Farmer Cop channel and turn your notification bells so you don't miss any future videos I may post. This has been Farmer Cop. Thank you guys for coming and watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.